For decades, Maury Povich stood at the center of family truth and DNA revelations. Calm voice, one envelope, and a sentence that could change lives forever. But some stories never made it to that famous stage. Some truths were too heavy even for the brightest studio lights. This is one of those stories I found out on a Tuesday, a normal Tuesday, the kind of day where nothing is supposed to happen. I had gone to the grocery store, picked up dry cleaning, stopped for coffee at the place on the corner. I came home expecting an empty house. Instead, I found my world ending. My name is Sandra. I am 52 years old. I have been married to my husband, Greg, for 26 years. And my daughter, Megan, is 23 from my first marriage before Greg. Greg raised Megan since she was 4 years old. He taught her to ride a bike. He walked her down the aisle at her high school prom. He paid for her college education. He was the only father she ever knew. And now she was pregnant with his child. I wasn't supposed to come home early. I had a hair appointment at 2 o'clock, but the stylist called to cancel. Food poisoning, she said. Could we reschedule for next week? I said yes. I hung up. And instead of finding something else to do, I decided to go home. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had gone to a movie, gone shopping, gone anywhere else in the world, but I went home. And when I walked through the front door, I heard them. The sounds were coming from upstairs. At first, I didn't understand what I was hearing. My brain refused to process it. I thought maybe Megan had come over to do laundry. She did that sometimes, even though she had her own apartment now. I thought maybe she had brought a boyfriend and they didn't realize I was home. But then I heard Greg's voice, and I knew in that instant, before I even climbed the stairs, before I even opened the bedroom door, I knew what I was going to find. I walked up those stairs anyway. I pushed open the door, and I saw them. My husband, my daughter, in the bed I had slept in for 26 years. They didn't notice me at first. They were too occupied. But when the door swung open and hit the wall, they both froze. Megan screamed. Greg scrambled for the sheets, trying to cover himself, his face twisted in panic. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching the two people I loved most in this world try to hide their bodies from me, try to hide what they had done. And something inside me broke, not cracked, not fractured, shattered. Mom! Megan's voice was high, desperate, childlike. The same voice she used when she was 5 years old and had broken my favorite vase. Mom, please, I can explain. Explain what? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm, too calm. Explain why you're in bed with my husband, your stepfather. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. I turned to Greg. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, not even trying to meet my eyes. How long? I asked. He didn't answer. How long? Greg finally looked up. His face was gray, hollow. 2 years. 2 years. For 2 years, my husband had been sleeping with my daughter. For 2 years, they had been lying to me, deceiving me, carrying on an affair under my own roof while I cooked dinner and did laundry and planned family vacations. I thought about all the times I had noticed them whispering, all the times Megan had come over when I wasn't home, all the times Greg had offered to pick her up from work or help her move furniture. I thought it was kindness. I thought it was love, the healthy kind, the fatherly kind. I was such a fool. Megan had been 21 when it started. Legal, yes. An adult in the eyes of the law, yes. But she was still my daughter, still the little girl I had raised from infancy, protected through childhood, guided through adolescence. Still the person I loved more than my own life. And Greg had known her since she was 4 years old. He had watched her lose her first tooth. He had taught her to ride a bicycle. He had threatened her prom date with bodily harm if he didn't treat her right. He had been a father figure to her for 19 years before he decided to become something else entirely. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, so incomprehensible that I couldn't even feel it yet. My mind had shut down. I was numb, frozen, standing in the doorway of my own bedroom, watching my life collapse around me like a building that had just been dynamited from within. I left the house without another word. I got in my car. I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. I ended up at a park 3 towns over. I sat on a bench by the lake watching the ducks float across the water, and I tried to understand how this had happened. How had I missed it? Were there signs? Had I been blind, or had they just been that good at hiding it? I thought about all the family dinners, all the holidays, all the times Megan had hugged Greg and I had smiled, thinking how lucky I was that they had such a close relationship. Close. God, they were close. close. I sat on that bench until the sun went down, and then I drove to a hotel and checked in for the night. I couldn't go back to that house. I wasn't sure I would ever go back. Megan called 47 times that night. I didn't answer. Greg called 32 times. I didn't answer those either. I lay in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, watching my phone light up again and again with their names. The two people who had destroyed me, desperate to explain themselves. There was nothing to explain. Some things are beyond explanation, beyond forgiveness, beyond repair. This was one of them. 3 days later, Megan showed up at the hotel. I don't know how she found me. Maybe she tracked my credit card. Maybe she called every hotel in a 50-mile radius. It didn't matter. She was standing in the hallway when I opened the door, her eyes red and swollen from crying, her hair unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. "Please," she said, "please just let me talk to you." I should have closed the door. I should have walked away. But something in her voice, something broken, something desperate, made me step aside. She came in, and that's when she told me, "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between us. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to tell me it was a joke, a lie, anything other than what she had just said. "I'm pregnant," she repeated, "and it's Greg's." I sat down on the edge of the bed. I couldn't breathe. My daughter was pregnant with my husband's child. The baby would be my grandchild and my husband's child. My daughter would be the mother of my stepchild. The family tree had become a tangled, impossible mess. "How far along?" I heard myself ask. 8 weeks. 8 weeks. 2 months. Long enough to be certain. Too early to show. "Does Greg know?" Megan nodded. "He wants me to keep it. He says he'll leave you. He says we can be together." I looked at my daughter, this woman I had raised, loved, sacrificed for, and I saw a stranger. "And what do you want?" Megan's lip trembled. "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore." I asked her to leave. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't sit in the same room with her, breathing the same air, pretending this was a conversation between a mother and daughter. This wasn't a mother and daughter. This was a woman who had been betrayed, and the woman who had betrayed her. Megan left without another word. She closed the door behind her, and I listened to her footsteps fade down the hallway. And then I finally cried. I cried for hours. I cried until there was nothing left. I cried for my marriage, for my daughter, for the grandchild who would be born into a family that no longer existed. I filed for divorce the following week. The lawyer looked at me with that particular expression, part sympathy, part discomfort, that people always have when they hear a story like mine. She had seen ugly divorces before. She had handled infidelity, abuse, abandonment. But a husband leaving his wife for her own daughter? That was a new level of dysfunction even for her. "Are you sure you want to proceed?" she asked. "Some couples try counseling first. Counseling won't fix this," I said. "Nothing will fix this." She nodded and began preparing the paperwork. Greg didn't contest it. He didn't fight for the house, the savings, the retirement accounts, anything. He knew what he had done was indefensible. He knew that no judge, no jury, no court of public opinion would ever take his side. He signed every paper I put in front of him and moved out within a month. He moved in with Megan into an apartment across town, together, a couple now, publicly, openly, without the need for secrecy or lies anymore. They posted pictures on social media. They held hands in restaurants. They acted like any other couple expecting a baby. I heard from mutual friends that they were happy, that they were preparing for the baby together, that they had decorated a nursery in soft yellows and greens with a crib that Greg had assembled himself. I didn't respond to any of it. I just signed the divorce papers and tried to figure out how to live the rest of my life without the two people who used to define it. The hardest part was losing them both. Losing Greg was painful, but survivable. He was a man I had loved, but he was also a man who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I could hate him. I could move on. But losing Megan was different. She was my daughter, my only child. I had carried her for 9 months, raised her for 23 years, loved her through every mistake, every heartbreak, every triumph, and now she was gone. Not dead, but gone from my life completely. A stranger who shared my DNA, but nothing else. I tried to understand how it happened. I tried to make sense of it, but there was no sense to be made. Some people make choices that destroy everything, and then they have to live with those choices. Megan had made hers. Now I had to make mine. 6 months later, the baby was born. A girl, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, healthy and beautiful, according to the announcement Megan posted online. I saw the photos on social media. Megan holding the baby in a hospital bed. Greg standing beside her, beaming like a proud father, because he was a proud father. And I was... what? A grandmother? A stranger? Both? I stared at those photos for a long time. At my daughter's tired smile, at my ex-husband's joy, at the tiny bundle wrapped in pink. That baby was innocent. She hadn't chosen her parents. She hadn't asked to be born into this mess, but I couldn't look at her without seeing the betrayal. I couldn't hold her without remembering what her existence represented. Megan reached out when the baby was 3 months old. A text message. Simple. Careful. Mom, I know you hate me. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I want you to know your granddaughter. Her name is Emma. She has your eyes. I read the message 20 times. My eyes. This baby, this impossible, painful, complicated baby had my eyes. I didn't respond right away. I put the phone down and walked away. I made dinner. I watched television. I went to bed, but the message stayed in my mind. 3 weeks later, I texted back. I stared at my phone for an hour before I typed the response. One word. Okay. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. I didn't know if I could handle seeing my daughter again, but I knew I had to try. For Emma, for myself. We met at a park, neutral territory. Megan was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench with the stroller beside her. She looked different. Older, more tired, more cautious. Motherhood had changed her. Or maybe it was guilt. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench. I didn't look at her. I just looked at the stroller. Can I see her? Megan nodded. She turned the stroller so I could see inside. And there she was, Emma. 3 months old with a tuft of dark hair and eyes that were unmistakably mine. The same shape, the same color, the same curious expression I saw in the mirror every day. I felt something crack inside me, not the shattered pieces from before. Something else, something softer. She's beautiful, I whispered. She is, Megan agreed. She's everything. We didn't talk about Greg. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't talk about forgiveness or reconciliation or anything that mattered. We just talked about Emma, her sleeping schedule, her feeding habits, the funny faces she made when she was dreaming. It wasn't enough. It wasn't closure. It wasn't healing, but it was something. I see Emma once a month now. Megan brings her to the park. We sit on the same bench watching the ducks, and I hold my granddaughter for an hour. I don't go to their apartment. I don't speak to Greg. I don't pretend that everything is okay, because it isn't. But I refuse to punish Emma for her parents' sins. She didn't choose this, neither did I. People ask me how I cope. They ask how I wake up every morning knowing what my daughter did, knowing what my husband did, knowing that they're together now, raising a child, living a life that was built on my destruction. I don't have a good answer. I just survive. One day at a time, one breath at a time. Some mornings I wake up angry. Some mornings I wake up sad. Some mornings I wake up numb, which might be the worst feeling of all, but I wake up. And that has to be enough. I will never forgive them. People say forgiveness is for yourself, not for the other person. They say holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Maybe they're right, but some betrayals are too deep. Some wounds are too permanent. Some things cannot be forgiven, only survived. What Greg and Megan did to me cannot be undone. It cannot be explained. It cannot be justified. But I can choose how I live with it. I can choose to hold my granddaughter. I can choose to see the innocent in the midst of the guilty. I can choose to keep going. For decades, Maury Povich stood at the center of family truth and DNA revelations. Calm voice, one envelope, and a sentence that could change lives forever. But this story didn't need a DNA test. The truth was discovered in a bedroom, and it destroyed everything just the same.